Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Arsenal transfer series, our daily show every single day at 8 a.m. In the UK. And yeah, it didn't come home. It sucks. It really genuinely is not a nice morning for a number of reasons, and the result isn't the only one of them, unfortunately, because yesterday was, well, let me talk to you about the 3 weeks. The last 3 weeks has been great. Like, it's been genuinely brilliant. And I was watching this morning, if you haven't already seen it, Tifo Football put up an amazing 5-minute video called England Didn't Lose. And it talks about kind of the small victories from the tournament and what it means going forward for England. It's a really good watch, and you should definitely watch it. It was such a great 3 weeks. Some amazing football, falling back in love with the English national team, which is, if you're not from England, and I mean, England itself has always kind of been a bit of a parody at times, and the kind of the 2018 World Cup was kind of the beginning of this different sort of feeling around the club nation, you know what I mean, which is great. But obviously, yesterday was kind of that last next step for England to try and really, take it that one step further and win an international trophy, and they couldn't do it. And it sucks. Absolutely, as an England fan, you want to see it happen. I didn't feel like England deserved to win. I'm just going to put that straight out there. I thought Italy were the better team on the day, absolutely. And I think Southgate got it wrong. But I'm not here to criticise Southgate, because at the end of the day, he got us to a European final. And he got us to a major international tournament final. So I can't sit here and criticise him at all, because he got us there, and fair play to him, and he deserves to stay and take us to the next World Cup. Anyway, let's talk about the real thing, the real problem. And I know that this is the Arsenal transfer show, but it would be absolutely unjust of me not to talk about this at the start of the video. And it may go on for a little bit, so bear with me, because it's important. Bukayo Saka obviously missed the last penalty in the penalty shootout yesterday, along with Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford. And after they missed the penalties, you didn't even have to look online before you knew what you were going to see. And that in itself is such a horrible problem. It's a problem anyway, and it's a systemic issue that we know all too well about. But Bukayo Saka in particular, obviously coming from an Arsenal perspective and one of our young players, Bukayo Saka is an incredible player. At 19 years of age, to step up and take that penalty is ridiculously brave, especially when the likes of Raheem Sterling and Jack Grealish, more senior pros, have been playing a lot longer, have played in this position, have taken penalties, didn't take one. That's brave from Saka. It really is. And he and everyone else and no one deserves any kind of abuse ever at any point. And last night was seeing the videos, not just of and the pictures of, not of just the racist abuse towards those players, but the videos of people doing some ridiculous things and breaking into Wembley Stadium. And I saw people criticising the organisers, saying it should have been better protected. But sure, we can have that conversation at another point. But let's actually talk about the people that did the things that went wrong. And when you, as an English person, when you see, obviously, people saying that they don't want England to win and they find England like it's an arrogant country, etc., I can't argue against that when you see scenes and images like we saw yesterday. It's embarrassing for me. It really genuinely is. It makes me embarrassed to be English, and it's just, for someone who grew up in quite a closed, some might use the word old-fashioned kind of household. And I went for a lot of education the last kind of 5 years around diversity and understanding, and just widening my view of so many topics, as you guys have probably noticed from how I am on the channel. that I've kind of gotten to the stage where I feel like it's all, I feel like some white people like myself find it a little bit like they can't talk about this sort of thing, when actually I think it should be so much more encouraged. Like, white people like myself should be calling this out a hell of a lot more, and should be having these conversations, because I want to support everyone that is ever affected by racism, ever affected by prejudice of any kind whatsoever. And yesterday was just such a horrible moment to be English and a horrible moment to really, have to see this type of situation happen. I feel like I'm going to start repeating myself over and over again, because it's hard to articulate more than how I feel about this situation, and more how I feel about what these young guys have had to go through. I mean, just to give context, Bukayo Saka, 19 years of age, has done amazing things for Arsenal and his country, and England wouldn't be in the final if it wasn't for Bukayo Saka and his efforts against Denmark anyway. Marcus Rashford has been an absolute gem of a human being throughout the entire NHS support process during the lockdown, and prior to that, he's helped with child poverty, he's helped with education, and he's an absolute icon and role model to so many people. Raheem Sterling has stood up to racism and the media and so many other people that have tried to bring him down. And it's crazy how, after all of that, and I don't really want to give the person's name any credit, and I know a lot of people don't want to see people highlighting any of these comments, but I saw someone, I think it was just someone on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, saying that Rashford should stick to football now and not politics. And when you see stuff like that, and you lose all faith in kind of humanity, it's a real sad place to be. So yeah, just as to wrap this section up, I just hope that we can all get behind not just Saka, and not just the Arsenal players, but everyone and all of the players in every single squad and every single nation that's ever affected by racism and prejudice, homophobia, sexism, ageism, everything that you can think of, any kind of discrimination. We hope we can stand against that. But yeah, I feel like, I've said as much as I can on this topic, and I will not stop talking about this topic because I talk about it a lot. And if you don't like it, you can go and do one, quite frankly. And also, please, I know I've been a bit of a hypocrite, because I definitely tweeted out quoting an image of some of the abuse that the players have. But please, if you see it, just report it. It's best to try and just, report rather than actually giving them the attention that they want. So if you see any racist abuse, report it. If you see any prejudice, report it. And I'm not saying anything will get done about it, because quite frankly, the way that the social media companies handle this sort of stuff is pathetic. But fingers crossed we can see some change. Anyway, we move on to the main part of today's show. It is our 8 a.m. morning show that we do every single day, in which we talk about Arsenal's transfer news. So let's talk about that. We start off with William Saliba, who looks like a move to Marseille is still very much happening, despite the fact that Marseille have moved to sign Luan Perez from Santos. William Saliba definitely looks like he's still moving to Marseille. That's according to TF1 in France, saying that they are going to be pursuing this deal and getting it done within the next kind of week or so. The Amazon documentary starts in a couple of weeks' time in the Florida trip, so don't expect to see any of the Saliba stuff. I'm afraid if you were hoping to see any of that crop up on the documentary, it's probably not going to. So don't get your hopes up about that one. Maybe towards the end of the season, maybe something midway through the season. We'll have to wait and see. Moving on to our next story, Callum Chambers linked with a move away to Crystal Palace. Patrick Vieira, of course, has taken over at Crystal Palace, and we did kind of suspect that we may see some of our players linked with that. I didn't really see that as a viable link. Vieira has not really been associated with Arsenal for quite a long time, ever since he really left in 2005. So I wasn't expecting him to really push for any Arsenal players, and this is why you should probably take all of these reports with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But yeah, Callum Chambers to Crystal Palace, would it be a good move? Possibly, but I think Arsenal would be doing better to get rid of a player like Cedric and Bellerin and then keep Chambers to be a backup at both centre-back and right-back. So I would be a little bit disappointed to see Callum Chambers go. Moving on to Andre Onana and the possible ins that we could see this summer. This certainly does not look like it's going to be one. Onana has supposedly agreed a deal with Lyon now for his personal terms, and he wants to move to Lyon for next season to be their number one goalkeeper. And I think that's been really the main sticking point of this move for Arsenal. It's been the fact that he's not been able to have it confirmed that he would be Arsenal's number one, and that's kind of put him off. And that doesn't surprise me. Arsenal don't seem to be looking to move on Bernd Leno. He looks like he's going to be staying at the club as well. So there is all of that to think about. So if you were hoping that Onana's going to be ending up at Arsenal, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed, because it does not look like that is going to happen. Locatelli is our kind of a penultimate story of the day. Now, of course, he came off the bench against England in the final yesterday and did well, as did most of the, if not all of the Italian team. And he is still being linked with this move, because Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy have said that Arsenal are not going away, and they are still trying to push for this deal, despite the fact that Locatelli clearly does prefer a move to Juventus, and they really do genuinely want to fight for him. And I think they're hoping that maybe that persistence, they're hoping that that push is really going to trying to convince him effectively to change his mind, and that pursuit of him and the effort that they're putting in to try and get him is going to change his mind. We can only hope that's the case, because I genuinely think if Arsenal ended up getting Locatelli, it would be one of the coups of the summer. So fingers crossed Arsenal can change his mind, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. I still very much would expect him to be a Juventus player by the end of the summer. Moving on to this is actually our penultimate story. Isco. Now, I'm not really that kind of convinced that this is a legitimate story, but supposedly, according to reports coming out of Spain, Arsenal are one of the teams interested in taking Isco away from Real Madrid next season. Of course, he has been linked with a move to Arsenal before, back in January and in the previous summer window as well. And in the summer before that, we've been linked to Isco a number of times. So it's not a shocking surprise to see this player linked with Arsenal once again. Would I want him? I don't think so. He's not of the age profile. I think he's on a decline. I think that you would need to really kind of invest a lot of time in him to get the best from him. And I think when you've got someone like Emile Smith-Rowe, you're not necessarily going to give him all that time. Wages are another thing. For me, not one that I would be looking for Arsenal to kind of pursue this summer. Our final story involves Ben White. Now, because obviously the situation we find ourselves in with the Euros now finished, it obviously does mean that some of those players are looking like they will then start to complete their moves. And I think when it's okay, let's just get rid of some people in the chat box, because not appropriate. In terms of the Euros finishing, it now means that England are, and the players within the squad are able to, and are more likely to, complete their moves. And Ben White has not played at the Euros this tournament. He was kind of brought in as your, I was going to say fodder then, but not fodder, more of your depth. That's the right word. Depth is what he was brought in for, and to be kind of a backup if necessary. And I think it's a really good experience for him being with the squad as well. It now looks like that is certainly one that could be moved forwards, and certainly one that could be taking place in the next kind of week, 2 weeks or so. But there will be a recovery period. There will be a holiday period for these players. It's whether or not that deal can get sorted while that period of recovery and holiday is going on. We'll have to wait and see. But you can imagine that this is now going to unlock the potential to see these deals happen. You'll likely see Jadon Sancho's move to Manchester United fully announced, rather than just the agreement in principle being announced, but the actual full announcement of that. So that for me is going to be some good news for Arsenal when Ben White eventually does get his move to Arsenal sorted. And that is all of today's news. Not a lot of news, as you can imagine, because it was a very hectic day yesterday and there wasn't too many reports coming out. Interesting, though, if you want to look at it from a social perspective, that because there was a lot going on yesterday media-wise, there was less stories. Now, if that tells you that some stories are, generated, created, then that's, I think, for me, evidence that there is certainly that going on. And so a much more busier day saw that happen. So there you go. I'm not going to spend too long on questions. One, because my head hurts quite a lot is one of those reasons, and secondly, after yesterday and the horrible stuff we saw, I don't really have the energy for it, to be honest. So I'll answer a couple of them, but I'm not going to be around for too long. I will try and answer some of your questions a little bit later on today if I do another show this evening. I might be putting a podcast together. We'll see if that happens, but let's try and answer a few of them before we wrap up. Assassin General says, Tom, the level of abuse Saka got last night was shocking and disgusting. I can believe this. I can believe this 19-year-old was targeted by pathetic people. Yes, you're absolutely right, Assassin. And you can hear my thoughts on it at the start of the video. I talked at length, and it's a real horrible thing to have to see. And fingers crossed, people can be found. Lindell says, Tommy, you Arteta in or out? It's a new season, so it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I'm just looking forward to seeing the new season, and we'll make judgments after a few games. There's no point me saying that if I'm wanting him gone now, because it's the middle of the summer and he's going nowhere. So no point talking about that, really. Samuel says, what do you think the lineup will be for tomorrow's friendly? That's great. At least we get Arsenal coming back. I have no idea, Samuel, about a lineup. You don't know. I don't even know the list of players that are going yet. I don't know if that's been announced. So it's difficult to say what the lineup will be. I imagine you'll get a few of the players that have come back for pre-season training. Like Emile Smith-Rowe probably could get minutes. We may even see Tavares play tomorrow. So let's wait and see. But definitely interesting to see what squad goes and if the likes of Kolasinac and Willian end up going as well. Balaj says, Tom, what are the shows you have planned for this week? Could you give us a sneak peek? I can't, because usually half of the stuff is done kind of on the fly because of the stuff that we get linked to. Tomorrow, the Tuesday game, I am going to try and do a raw reaction show straight after the friendly match, fingers crossed. So hopefully I can get that content to you guys. And then on Friday, we will have the normal Q&A show. But in between that, they're usually pretty spontaneous. I'm going to try and get one of those top 10 videos out for you guys, probably on the right backs. That's certainly an area I think a lot of people want to see us delved into a little bit more. Owen says, Tom, any idea how we can watch the game? I believe it's being streamed on the Arsenal website. So I think you should be able to watch it on the Arsenal website. So fingers crossed that is indeed true. So there you go. Isaac says, time for the FA to give these players full support, especially Saka, Rashford and Sancho, 100%. Arun says, Tom, Arteta has a big job now to get Saka's morale back up. We as Arsenal fans should also be giving Saka time to recoup. I think he'll be giving a long recovery time. I don't think you'll see Saka at the start of the season. I think he'll come in after the first few games. We will wait and see. TOG says, what are my thoughts on Kane's performance in the final? I didn't think he stood out amongst the rest as having a worse game. I didn't think anyone had an amazing game, really. It weren't great. It wasn't great from the entire team. So it's not individuals I'm really focused on for the England performance, because it's been a very collective effort all tournament. So it's, for me, a case of the team failed, not individuals failing. But up until this point, it's been a real good success. And without Kane's goals, we wouldn't have got to the final. So you need to think about that for sure. I blame the inflatable unicorns, says Nick. You can't blame the inflatable unicorns. They were brilliant. It's on ESPN as well, says Mo. So there you go. So it should be able to be watched by a fair few of you. Fingers crossed. And we're playing Hibernian. So there you go. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up there. I know it's been a really short show, but I don't really have the energy this morning to do any more. And it's not been a great kind of last however many hours, 12 hours, is it? Yeah, 12 hours. It's not been the best. In fact, 12 hours ago, we were still 1-0 up. So it's not been the best time since then. If you could drop a like on the video, show your appreciation that we're still doing these shows every single day, despite the fact of yesterday's results, still sitting here at 8 a.m. putting on a show for you guys. So I really would appreciate you guys dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you're new around here, with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. I will try and get a show out for you this afternoon where I'm feeling a little bit more perky and a little reflected a lot more on what's gone on, and hopefully be able to get some people for a podcast for you guys too. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys as always. Keep doing your good work and your fine form on the socials, calling people out, reporting people. Let me know who the ITKs are. And as I said at the start, please do report any racist abuse that you see online. I can't promise anything will be done about it, but please just try and report it as best you can. See you soon, guys. Have a good day. And as always, up the Arsenal.